What's up guys, I'm Nico of CAMCRUNCH, and today I'm going to talk about lens hoods, or these things that you put on top of your camera. There's a lot to talk about in regards to lens hoods, what they do, whether you should buy one, all sorts of stuff. So let's just go through them one by one. So what are lens hoods? Now lens hoods are, again, these things that you just attach to the top of your lens. Now there are many different kinds of lens hoods. They all attach different ways depending on what camera brand you're using, what type of lens you're using. This one's just a screw-on one, not a screw-on one, like a, I don't know what you call this. There are actual screw-on ones that screw on like filters. There are like ones that attach with like clips and switches and all sorts of stuff. But it depends on the lens, depends on the manufacturer. But it's relatively easy to figure out how to do. It's not rocket science. So what does a lens hood do? Well, lens hoods were invented in order to prevent flare or to reduce flare from affecting your images. So how does that work? So let's just say you're shooting and this is your lens and your sun is somewhere here in this area. Unless you're shooting directly at the sun, you can prevent some of the flare from happening. And how does the lens hood help? Well, just think about light trying to hit the lens from different directions. So again, not directly in front because then you would get flare, but let's say the sun's here and the light shining this way. The lens hood, if you don't have a lens hood, the light will just shine straight through and hit the lens, and it's going to bounce around and then eventually hit your sensor. Now with the lens hood, it blocks some of the light from entering the lens from different angles, and that will reduce the flare automatically. In addition to that, some lens hoods have this felt material in the inside. I don't know if you can see that, but if you've ever used a Canon L series lens with a lens hood, they usually have this felt or velvety material in the inside, and that's to further reduce the flare. So if light happens to bounce in the inside of a lens hood, rather than bouncing and reflecting straight into the lens, it diffuses that light. It's sort of the same concept as with soundproofing a room. You use like padded cushions so that the sound doesn't bounce off flatly. It goes off in all different directions to diffuse that sound, to mute that sound. It's the same thing. It might not seem like it's too textured, but it is, and light will bounce off in all different directions, and that will in turn reduce flare. So that's the main purpose of the lens hood. Now what else does the lens hood do? The lens hood also protects your lens. And what do I mean by that? Well, your lens front element is very sensitive. You do not want to mess the glass in your lens because that can in turn change the image quality. It's all about the glass. It's about how light passes through the glass. So you don't want to get cracks on it or any of that sort of stuff. And unfortunately, sometimes we bump into stuff, even if we try to take care of our gear as best as possible. But if you have a lens hood in front of your lens, if you happen to bump into stuff, it's going to hit the lens hood rather than the glass in front of your lens. And breaking a lens hood is definitely not as bad as breaking the glass, because breaking the glass is basically breaking the lens. Now breaking the lens hood, it's something that's replaceable. And I've actually had a lens hood crack on me before. It was from my 18 to 200 millimeter Nikkor lens. It cracked on the inside. It still worked, but it did have that crack, and that's from like hitting something. So yeah, lens hoods do their job very well. Now, should you own a lens hood? Should you use one for your lens? Well, I always recommend using your lens hood if you have one. Now, whether you should buy one if you don't have one, if you have a cheaper lens, sometimes the lens hood, the original lens hood from the manufacturer, can cost a lot. So I would recommend against that. I would recommend going to a third-party manufacturer for it. This is the original lens hood for my Canon 24-105, but I do have this third-party lens hood, which works just fine, and I will be doing a video that compares both in terms of build quality in the near future. So stay tuned for that. But yeah, if you own a cheaper lens, a kit lens, maybe go for the third-party lens hood if your lens doesn't come with a lens hood. So that's all I have to say for lens hoods. Again, to summarize, they prevent flare and they protect your lens and they screw on very easily. So that's it, guys. I hope you enjoyed this video and I'll see you guys next time. Peace.